How many of you have heard about Wells Fargo and the problem they got into with mortgages? Show of hands? Okay. Do you really want your company on the cover of the New York Times with this kind of story? Okay. One thing I loved about it is where people were talking about how statistics found the problem. Now, here is the issue. When you try to do statistics today, it is an instrument of the elite. Now, I have a degree in computer science and economics from Stanford, and believe you me, I can't use SAS. How many of you have used SAS or Stata or Minitab? I see a few hands. You can admit it. You can admit it more clearly. It's incredibly hard. It's like programming, right? So our goal was, can we make it incredibly simple for a person to go in and find out the information? So what Lucid is think of it as a data scientist in a box. It does automatically what a consultant does for you today, going from data to insights. So here we have some loan data. This is of course dummy data because no bank would let us run a real analysis on the data. But interestingly enough, it actually reflects real client data. And if you pay attention, you can perhaps figure out what's going on here. The software has figured out that there is some data. There's the name of the applicant, there's the age, there's the salary, the loan amount, the debt, etc. I just go in and say, and by the way, this is a little scary trying to do a demo on screen. But what happens is you go in and you put in what variables you want to analyze, and what's your output variable, which in this case is interest rate. I'm trying to figure out what is my interest rate by processing officer, and do any of these things matter? Now, I didn't have to write a line of code. The software did figure out that debt is a continuous variable, meaning it's a number, and the gender is an enumeration, so it's male, female. I'm not going to run the analysis live, I'm not that brave. But what happens is, when the analysis actually runs, the software comes back and says, well, there are several variables. There are several variables that matter. Processing officer is a variable that matters. This is just like in Watson, you were talking about the importance, how confident the software is that it's important. The importance is telling me, should I take a look at this graph? Is it worth my time to take a look at this graph? If you have 10 variables, there are actually about 720 graphs you have to take a look at if you want to go for first, second, and third order effects. This is coming back and saying only 2 graphs matter, processing officer and gender is barely interesting. But then it goes in and says processing officer gender, that combination is much more interesting. The combination of processing officer and gender is telling us something unique. So let's go click on that. And what ends up happening is I get graphs of processing officer interest rates by gender. Well, this is a little bit zoomed in. But if I go to an alternate view, what you will see is Officer 1 and Officer 7 are setting much higher interest rates for women as opposed to men. Okay, that would be a problem for your bank if you have a systematic pattern of that. Here's another interesting thing. The software is also going and say, if you notice, race was not an important thing at the top level. But processing officer and race is showing up as something really interesting. If I click on this, what the software is showing me is Officer 6 is setting a much higher interest rate for this race than for others. That's the kind of trouble big banks run into, okay? But maybe, you have lots of data, you have hundreds of variables, and you can't really see that it was Officer 6. What the software is doing right here, when I click down here, and we were at Officer Gender, it's telling you, look at Officer 7 and look at Officer 1, and look at male. Well, let's go and see what we had on the original graph. We had Officer 1 and Officer 7 setting very different interest rates, and the software just guided me to it. Go look at Officer 1 and Officer 7, and click on Officer 7, I get Officer 7's graphs by gender. Now there are 3 key things happening here. The software is telling me what combination of variables are important. It's telling me where to look in the combination of variables. And finally, hopefully you'll agree, because I didn't have to use a keyboard, didn't have to write a line of code, this doesn't look anything like SAS. If you don't believe me, come by our demo stand, which is going to be right there. One of my interns was a sophomore in college, Monica. Monica, where are you? Okay, Monica's right there. She's a sophomore in college. She'll be demoing it. And if you can't figure out this product, you have to admit that you're not smarter than a sophomore. Okay? How am I doing on time? Chris, you got to keep me honest, because if I'm keeping everyone else honest. So, Essentially, if you think about what we are trying to do, you need to go from data to actionable insights. Today you have software companies that do information, but you need to understand statistics. You really need to know what you're doing if you want to use it. Then you have companies that do the consulting and give you the insights you need. And then there are the visual analytics companies. And these are the ones that scare me. They're beautiful products that really look nice, but you have a business user who doesn't understand statistics trying to do statistics, and that's dangerous. Any statistician will tell you why that's dangerous. And that's what Lucid is trying to do. Automating what the consultant does so that you get the insights automatically in a simple to use way. That's what I wanted to show you today. Please come by our booth if you want to know more. And I hope I stuck to the theme of being innovative. Thank you.